Good evening, board of Pinot Kobe Wine and Burger Bar. My name is Addison Breen. I've worked in the Boca location for about 4 years now. I've been a server there for about 3 years and a bartender for about a year and a half with some overlap there. And I am going to present to you a research problem that I have that's become a chronic issue in our Boca location. Before I get into it, I would first like to ask you guys, or you all, if you've ever been to a restaurant, had this experience where you order a burger or a steak, if you are a meat eater, medium rare, and it's served to you later on, well done, or vice versa, by a show of hands. And then just for the non-meat eaters, if you're out there, if you've ordered a salad with the sauce on the side and it comes with the salad on it, by a show of hands. So we've all experienced this. Now I want you to think about if this has ever affected your decision in returning back to that restaurant. Maybe it hasn't, it happened once in a place that you love to go. Maybe it's a chronic issue. I'm here to talk about a chronic issue that I've researched in our restaurant. This is chefs preparing food items incorrectly in the kitchen. And a quick preview of topics, I'm going to address the issue, talk about its central causes, symptoms and effects, and then some potential solutions that I've researched for you. So first is symptoms. The first symptom that I've noticed with this problem is that it has to do with inventory. We're 86 about 3 items per week. What this means, 86 is a restaurant term that it has to do with inventory. It means that we're missing something, pretty much. It happens about 3 times per week. When I started here 4 years ago, it rarely ever happened. Now it's as you can see, a substantial issue. The second symptom of this issue is high kitchen manager turnover. Since I started here 4 years ago, we've had 3 different head chefs. And each head chef that's come on the team brings 2 of their own chefs from the industry that they know or a previous restaurant they've worked in. So this has created a very large discrepancy of standards, as you probably can imagine. Each chef that's brought onto the team has their own way of doing things, and there's not one set standard. So as far as taking inventory, for example, that's gotten lost in the sauce, if you will. Some of the effects of this issue, I didn't even rehearse that part, it just came out. Some of the effects of this issue is customer complaints. I can personally, on my own account, one server, I can think of 10 substantial complaints. We're in Boca, so it's not hard to imagine, but I'm talking beyond just, I didn't like this today, I don't like your seasonal soup. I'm talking about the customers who've been loyal. They come in expecting a certain product served after a certain amount of time, served a certain way with certain sauces, and it's just not consistent anymore. So I'm talking about 10 substantial complaints that said it's always come this way, and today it didn't. And then also, according to Klein and FSR magazine, 23% of negative reviews on restaurant review sites like Yelp, for instance, are about the quality of the food. So almost a quarter of negative reviews about restaurants are about food quality. Now I've also, another effect of this chronic issue of chefs preparing food incorrectly in the back of house is a loss of raw materials. We've lost about $28,000 in raw materials now annually. And how I've determined this is this little word right down here, a refire. It's another restaurant term. A refire is when a chef has prepared something incorrectly and then we have to scrap it and start over. What the general public typically doesn't know is that if you order a burger medium rare, or medium rather, and it comes out medium rare, we can't just throw it back on the grill because that's against health code violations. So we have to scrap it, start over, and we're wasting those raw materials. So refires used to happen an average of once per shift. Now they're happening, since this chronic issue has become a pertinent issue in the restaurant, it happens about 3 times per shift. Also our hourly sales volume. In season, which is anywhere from, it varies in restaurants, but in our location from October to around March, April, during our busiest hour, we'll hit like $10,000 in hourly sales volume. Now it's closer to 6, so we're obviously losing some client retention due to this chronic issue. So the effects, this is also the profit loss breakdown. I'll explain where I got that $28,000 figure in the previous slide. Our average entree is $13, given that they range from $9 to $16 depending on what you're ordering. So if we're scrapping the raw materials of a refire, then we're losing $13. If it happens once per shift, like it used to, that's around $9,000 lost in raw materials annually. Now that it's happening 3 times per shift, that's $28,000. Not to mention this green word right here, comps, that's another restaurant terminology. If the guest has complained to a certain degree, or the refire took longer to come out, the manager might go as far to just comp off the entire meal, pretty much. So we're losing the raw materials of the refire, what was thrown in the trash or eaten in the back, and then we're also losing the $13 on the item itself. So we're losing $26 because of the issue of chefs preparing food incorrectly in the back. We also have some indirect costs of repeat labor right here. So that happens when a chef has to spend 15 more minutes preparing a well-done burger the second time around. And if they, on average, make $16 an hour, we're losing $4 in labor time. We're also increased table time. We could be flipping tables, meaning getting people out of there happy, more people in, faster turnover on tables. Servers make more money, restaurants making more money. So those are some of the indirect costs and effects of this issue. Now, some of the main causes I've researched on this issue is reactive management. Now, what I define this as is that we used to have pre-shift meetings. This is a great time for front of house, meaning servers and bartenders who talk to the customers, and back of house, head chefs and chefs on the line and line cooks. They get to talk about while we're 86 in the restaurant. We get to talk about the issues that we're experiencing or anything that's come up, any updates on the menu. Now, we don't figure out if we're 86 something in the restaurant until it's 7:30 on a Friday night and swarms of people are trying to eat. So it's very reactive. I think that's the main cause of it. The third is micromanagement. There's been several times that I've noticed the head chef leaving the expo line where they control quality food of the food before it hits the tables, and they also communicate open menu counts, which is how many orders are about to flood the kitchen. They have a very important job delegating in the expo window. They've left their designated position, and gone to the line to cook the food themselves. So it's micromanagement instead of delegation. The first potential solution that I have to this issue is proactive communication. Pros would obviously be the loss in raw materials of $19,000. We'll get that $28,000 closer to the $9,000. Also, $8,200 in labor hours annually, because we're not having to do repeat labor on the same order. Then we also, hopefully, given the same industry trends, get our hourly sales back to that $10,000 per hour and increase it by 67%. Of course, any solution comes with its cons. 5 hours of implementing this training is what I've researched and imagined to implement and develop this training, and also $11.50 in labor hours. The second solution I have is to terminate the chefs who've decided to preemptively leave their shift prior to the end of their shift. There's been times when the manager's given the chef an ultimatum to say, hey, prep it correctly in the back or clock out. And they go, okay, I'm gonna clock out then. And then they come back the next day. So this is, definitely getting rid of those bad eggs. We'll set a conduct or standard for the rest of the chefs, and of course improve morale in the long run. However, in the short run, it might decrease morale because people will fear their jobs. And of course, hiring and training new chefs is expensive. It might cost $7,500 based on what I've researched. So in conclusion, I'd like to remind you that we are in Boca Raton. We have seen, based on prior performance and current performance, given the same industry trends, we can bring our profits back up. And of course, in any business issue, a short-term investment can cause long-term profits in the long run. My question to you now is, if you do have any questions about my presentation, please start with what's your favorite restaurant and why. And that pretty much concludes my presentation.
Okay, questions?
Yes.
So my favorite restaurant is Prime 112 because it's really expensive and really good and big portions.
Okay, you like that it's expensive. I like that.
Yeah. A question is, since you bartended, have you ever made the drink like incorrectly and it was direct?
Yes, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm sorry, was there more to your question?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate you bringing that up. Not only do I make mistakes, surprise, I do sometimes, but not only do I make some mistakes, servers make mistakes too, so there are server-related refires. From my research, this isn't a chronic issue, and if it is, I'm happy to continue research. And from what I've researched also, the management is more diligent and they have more expectations of servers, so if you do that chronically, I've seen them, they're still enforcing that means you're out, typically. But of course, I make drinks incorrectly, from time to time. That's just gonna happen with human error. But any other questions? Yes.
So you mentioned chef turnover being an issue.
Yes.
Is there also restaurant manager issues as well, or is it?
That's a great question. I'm gonna be honest, their positions are kind of blended. So head chefs sometimes are involved in scheduling. Restaurant managers sometimes get behind the line and cook things. So yes, I think that of course it all starts from the top. I think there's a lot of integrity and hard work that comes from the top already, and this is just a way to refine that, I think, and some suggestions based on my research. Yes.
Okay, for the restaurant, Cheesecake Factory,
Okay.
I have so in your first slide, you added a picture of kind of meat temperatures.
Yes.
So
Go back when she's.
Sure, of course.
She's asking about the slideshow.
I agree. Yes.
So I like how you brought that up, because how well do you think the chefs on the line
Sure.
specification, do you think that lines up with what the head chefs think versus what the servers think?
That's a great question. I think the best answer to that is that it used to be. Because this, honestly, this is something that I found. This is like off of a stock image. This isn't how we describe our temperatures necessarily, but servers, if it's your first time at Zenburger and I'm serving you and you order medium well, I say, okay, slightly pink, okay? Or if you say, I want it medium rare, I say, okay, red with the warm red center, okay? And chefs know that like the back of their hand as well. So, or at least there's a discrepancy now with some of the new chefs, but they should know that and they used to. So, yeah, I think it used to be more enforced. Any other questions? Yes.
Just going back to what you said, so it's a health hazard or it's against health codes
Yes.
to put a steak back on the grill?
Yeah, so if
So should I sue you
how
on
it
this?
goes, if in a perfect world, I have a burger that's cut in half and I can bring it to you and say, do you like this temperature? Are you sure? Enjoy. But what happens is people don't know until they've bitten into it typically, unless you ask for the burger cut in half. And if the food touches the table, Florida health statutes say that it can't go back to the kitchen. Especially with coronavirus going around, it's just can't happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys.